The notification buzzed against my thigh like every other LinkedIn alert I'd ignored that month. Recruiters, software salesmen, people I'd met once at conferences 5 years ago wanting to connect. I was 3 hours into a forensic analysis of a client's compromised network, hunched over my laptop in a corner booth at Moretti's coffee house, and the last thing I needed was another distraction. But I looked anyway. Force of habit. The preview text stopped me cold. Mr. Parker, I think we need to talk about our spouses. This isn't spam. I have evidence. Please respond privately. The sender's name was Lena Mitchell. Her profile photo showed a woman with sharp cheekbones and serious eyes, the kind of face that suggested she didn't waste words. I read the message 3 times. Then a 4th. My coffee went cold in my hand. Tori had been working late. That was nothing new. She was a corporate attorney at Whitmore and Associates, one of the most prestigious firms in the city, and long hours came with the territory. But the late nights had multiplied lately. The weekend conferences, the phone always screened down on the kitchen counter, something she'd never done in our 9 years of marriage. I'd noticed. Of course I'd noticed. My entire career was built on noticing things other people missed. Buried data, hidden connections, the digital fingerprints people leave behind when they think no one's watching. But noticing and acknowledging are 2 different things, and I'd chosen the coward's path. I'd looked away. Now this message sat on my screen like an accusation. I did what I always do when confronted with something that might upend my life. I gathered data. I pulled up every piece of information I could find on Lena Mitchell without responding to her message. Background check, professional history, social media presence, marriage records. She was real, 36 years old, forensic accountant at Brennan and Associates for 8 years, married to James Mitchell, also an attorney, and here's where my stomach dropped, at Whitmore and Associates. Same firm as my wife. 2 children, ages 7 and 4. Clean record. No red flags. This wasn't a catfish. This wasn't a scam. This was a woman who'd found something she wished she hadn't, reaching out to the one other person who needed to know. I typed 2 words and hit send before I could talk myself out of it. I'm listening. 2 days passed like kidney stones. Tori came home Tuesday night humming something I didn't recognize, her cheeks flushed from what she called a productive strategy session with the partners. She kissed my cheek and asked about my day, and I lied through my teeth while my phone sat heavy in my pocket, Lena's latest message waiting to be read. Can you meet Thursday, somewhere outside the city? I have documentation you need to see. Please don't bring anyone. Thursday morning, I told Tori I had a client meeting in Westbrook. She barely looked up from her laptop. Drive safe, she said. I'll probably be late again tonight. This Henderson merger is killing me. Sure thing. I drove 30 miles to a diner called Lucky's, the kind of place that survived on highway traffic and regulars who'd been eating the same breakfast for 40 years. Neutral territory. Somewhere neither of our spouses would ever set foot. Lena was already there when I arrived, tucked into a booth near the back with a manila folder in front of her, like evidence at trial. She stood when she saw me. We'd exchanged photos so we'd recognize each other, and offered her hand. Her grip was firm, her palm dry. Whatever she was feeling, she had it locked down tight. David Parker, I said. Lena Mitchell, thank you for coming. We sat across from each other like 2 people negotiating a business deal, which I suppose we were. The waitress came by. We both ordered coffee neither of us would drink. How did you find out? I asked. Lena's jaw tightened. I'm a forensic accountant. My job is finding numbers that don't add up. She opened the folder but kept her hand on top of the papers. 3 weeks ago, I was doing our taxes. James has always been careless with expenses. He doesn't think I look closely. But I do. I always do. What did you find? Restaurant charges, hotels, a pattern. She slid the first sheet across to me. Credit card statements with certain entries highlighted in yellow. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 18 months. The Ashford Hotel. Dinner at Laurent's. Sometimes both on the same night. I knew the Ashford. Boutique hotel downtown. The kind of place that charged $400 a night for discretion as much as thread count. That could be client entertainment, I said, playing devil's advocate. Business dinners. I thought that too, at first. She pulled out another sheet. Then I found these. Text messages, screenshots from what had to be a cloned phone. The sender was listed as V with a heart emoji, a detail that struck me as both juvenile and damning. I can't stop thinking about last night. Miss you already. Thursday feels so far away. Jay, we need to talk about the future. I'm ready when you are. The J hit me like a fist. James. J for James. And V. Victoria, I said. Tori. Lena nodded, her expression carefully blank. Your wife. She showed me the rest, photos pulled from cloud backup. Nothing explicit, but intimate in ways that cut deeper than anything crude would have. Tori and James at a vineyard I'd never heard of, her head on his shoulder. The two of them at a cabin somewhere mountainous. Tori wearing a sweater I didn't recognize, laughing at something James had said. In one photo, he was kissing her forehead while she smiled with her eyes closed. The last item was a receipt. A jewelry store. $4,000 for a bracelet I'd never seen on my wife's wrist. I sat there looking at the evidence of my marriage's destruction, laid out in neat columns like a financial report. I waited for the rage to come, for the howling grief I'd seen in movies and read about in books. Instead, I felt something settle over me like a cold blanket. Clarity. How long have you known? I asked. 3 weeks. I've been gathering documentation. I wanted to be sure before I... She stopped. Before I destroyed both our lives. You haven't destroyed anything. They did. I looked up from the papers. What do you want to do about it? Lena's composure cracked for just a moment. Something fierce flickered behind her eyes. I want to destroy them, she said quietly. But I want to do it smart. I want them to have nowhere to hide, no story they can spin. I want them to face exactly what they've done with no way to lie their way out of it. My father was a Marine. He raised me to control my emotions rather than be controlled by them. He used to say that anger was useful fuel but a terrible steering wheel. Right now, I felt that fuel burning in my chest, and I knew exactly what to do with it. I'm a cybersecurity consultant, I said. My job is finding hidden information. I have access to tools and databases that most people don't even know exist. Lena straightened in her seat. And I can trace money through a maze of shell companies and offshore accounts. If they're hiding assets, then you can find them. We looked at each other across that table, two strangers bonded by the worst kind of common ground. I saw my own cold determination reflected in her eyes. 90 days, I said. That's how long we give ourselves. We gather everything. Document every lie, every hidden dollar, every secret meeting. Then we file for divorce on the same day, at the same time. Neither of them warns the other. Neither gets a chance to hide anything or coordinate their stories. And if they try to reconcile, beg forgiveness? I thought about Tori humming in the kitchen, kissing my cheek, lying to my face with practiced ease. They've had 18 months to come clean. They chose this. Every single day for 18 months, they chose this. I gathered the papers and squared their edges before handing them back. No mercy. Lena took the folder. Her hand was shaking slightly. No mercy, she agreed. I became two people after that meeting. There was the David who came home to Tori every night, who asked about her day and pretended to believe her answers, who lay beside her in bed while she scrolled through her phone and smiled at messages she thought I couldn't see. That David was an actor playing a role, hitting his marks with mechanical precision. Then there was the real David, the one who installed a GPS tracker on Tori's car the following Monday, perfectly legal since it was marital property. The one who set up alerts on our shared accounts and started documenting every inconsistency in an encrypted file that grew longer by the day. The duality was exhausting. Every morning, I woke up next to a woman I was systematically building a case against. Every evening, I kissed her cheek and asked about her day while mentally logging her responses for inconsistencies. I became hyper-aware of every small gesture, every change in routine. She started using a new shampoo around day 5. Jasmine and something else. Bergamot, maybe. It wasn't the brand she'd used for years. A small thing. Meaningless, probably. But I wrote it down anyway. New shampoo. Day 5. Possible gift? Or just trying something new? This was what my life had become. Cataloging shampoo choices. I discovered her second phone on day 8. She'd hidden it in her gym bag, tucked into an interior pocket she probably assumed I'd never check. I found it while she was in the shower, her primary phone sitting innocent on the nightstand. The burner was a cheap prepaid model, no passcode. She'd gotten lazy, or maybe she just never imagined I'd look. I didn't scroll through the messages, not yet. I photographed the phone, noted its number, and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Then I went downstairs and made dinner like nothing had happened. "Smells amazing," Tori said when she came down, her hair still damp. "What's the occasion?" "Just felt like cooking," she kissed my cheek. "You're sweet." Documented lie number 12, I thought. But who's counting? By day 14, I had enough evidence to paper our bedroom walls. The GPS tracker showed her car at the Ashford Hotel twice a week, just as Lena's records had indicated. Our shared accounts revealed a pattern of ATM withdrawals, small amounts, 200 here, 300 there, building up over months to more than $24,000 I couldn't account for. When I dug into her work calendar and cross-referenced it with the firm's actual schedule, the partner meetings she'd been attending every Tuesday and Thursday didn't exist. I called Lena from the parking garage of a grocery store, sitting in my car with the engine off. "I found her stash," I said. "24,000 at least. Probably more in accounts I can't see yet." "James bought a burner phone," Lena replied. "Cash transaction. I found the receipt in his jacket pocket." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "He's not even good at hiding things. I think he just assumed I'd never look." "What else?" She paused. "He's been researching divorce attorneys, but not local ones. Firms in Delaware, Connecticut, 3 states away." Cold fingers walked down my spine. "They're planning to run." That's what I thought. I found searches for real estate in Costa Rica on his laptop. Beach houses, long-term rentals. I closed my eyes. Tori had mentioned Costa Rica once, maybe 2 years ago. A casual comment about how beautiful it was, how she'd love to visit someday. I'd promised to take her. That promise felt like a joke now. "They're not just having an affair," I said. "They're building exit strategies. This is planned. Which means we need to be faster, smarter. We can't let them get ahead of us." That night, I lay in bed watching Tori sleep. Her face was peaceful, almost innocent. She made a small sound and shifted closer to me, her hand finding my chest in the darkness like it had 1,000 times before. I stayed perfectly still until her breathing deepened again. Then I stared at the ceiling for hours, cataloging every suspicious moment I'd chosen to ignore. Every late night. Every deflected question. Every time she'd looked at her phone and smiled that private smile. 18 months. They'd been doing this for 18 months. That was birthdays and holidays and lazy Sunday mornings. That was hundreds of kisses and thousands of lies. That was a whole separate life running parallel to the one she'd built with me, and I'd never seen it because I hadn't wanted to look. No more. Lena and I developed protocols. encrypted messaging apps that auto-deleted after 24 hours, meeting locations that rotated weekly, parks, diners, library parking lots, no contact during family hours when our spouses might notice our distraction, code words for sensitive topics. The Henderson file meant the affair evidence. The quarterly report meant potential legal action. We were running a covert operation in our own marriages. On day 18, we met at a coffee shop in Riverside, a neighborhood neither of our spouses ever visited. Lena had dark circles under her eyes. "I can't sleep," she admitted, stirring her untouched latte. "Every time I close my eyes, I see those photos. James and your wife at that cabin, looking so happy, like they don't have a care in the world." "I know what you mean. Does it make you angry?" I thought about it. Not like I expected. I thought I'd be furious, breaking things, screaming at the walls. But instead, I just feel cold, like there's ice where my feelings should be. Lena nodded slowly. "I've been reading about it. Betrayal trauma. Apparently it's normal to go numb. It's your brain's way of protecting itself from something too painful to process." "Great. So we're normal trauma victims. Silver linings, right?" We both laughed, and there was nothing funny about it. Day 23 brought a breakthrough. I was analyzing metadata from photos Tori had posted on Instagram, innocent snapshots of food and skylines that she'd used to document her supposed business travel. The geolocation data told a different story. 3 months ago, she'd claimed to be at a legal conference in Chicago. Her Instagram showed a artfully arranged room service breakfast with the caption, "Conference Fuel. Work trip, your legal life." The metadata placed that photo in Aspen, Colorado, at a ski resort, at 7:43 in the morning. I dug deeper. Found more photos from that weekend, ones she hadn't posted but had kept in her cloud backup. Tori on a ski lift, cheeks red from cold, grinning at whoever was holding the camera. Tori in a hot tub at sunset, champagne glass in hand. And in the reflection of the window behind her, visible if you looked closely enough, a man's silhouette. James. I saved everything. Timestamp, location data, file properties. Every digital breadcrumb that proved her Chicago conference was actually a romantic getaway with her lover. Lena's discovery that week was bigger. We met at a park near the interstate, sitting on a bench while joggers passed and children played in the distance. She looked different. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. "I found something," she said, "and I don't know what to do with it." She handed me a tablet with a spreadsheet pulled up. Numbers, account transfers, dates. It was dense, the kind of financial documentation that made my eyes glaze over. But Lena walked me through it line by line. "See this?" She pointed to a series of transfers. "Client escrow account. Money comes in from a settlement. Supposed to sit until the claim is processed. But look, 2 days later, $10,000 gets moved to this holding account. That's not unusual, is it? Firms move money around." "It would be, except this holding account isn't on the firm's books. It's in James's name. Set up at a bank in the Cayman Islands." She scrolled down. "He does it every month or so. Never the same amount. Never a pattern that would trigger automatic audits. He's been doing this for 3 years, David. Over $200,000. I stared at the numbers. "How did you find this?" "I'm a forensic accountant. This is what I do. Find money that doesn't want to be found." She set down the tablet. "But I almost missed it. He's smart. He varies the amounts, the timing, the source accounts. He only takes from large settlements where a few thousand here or there won't be noticed. Any normal auditor would have missed it." "But you're not a normal auditor." "No, I'm not." Her voice was flat. "I'm his wife. I know his tells. I know when he's nervous about something, when he's hiding something. And for the past year, he's been nervous every time a big settlement came through the firm." I thought about what this meant. James wasn't just a cheater. He wasn't just a man who'd betrayed his wife and children for a fling with my wife. He was a criminal, a thief who'd been stealing from clients, people who trusted him, who were depending on that money for their families, their futures. James has been skimming from client escrow accounts at the firm, she said quietly. Small amounts, a few thousand here, a few thousand there. He moves it into a holding account, lets it sit for 60 days, then transfers it to an offshore account in the Caymans. I stared at the numbers. How much total? Over the past 3 years, nearly $200,000. This wasn't just infidelity anymore. This was embezzlement, fraud, a felony that could send James to prison and end his career permanently. Does Tori know about this? I don't think so. The transfers are hidden in client billing records she wouldn't have access to. I only found them because I know where to look. Lena's hands were trembling. David, if we expose this, it won't just ruin his marriage. It'll ruin his life. He could go to prison. My children's father could go to prison. I thought about that for a long moment. The moral mathematics of revenge. Where does justice end and cruelty begin? He made those choices, I finally said. Every transfer, every fraudulent entry. He did that knowing the consequences. We're not responsible for what he decided to do. But if I use this, we don't have to use it, not directly. I handed the tablet back. Keep it separate. The affair evidence in one file, the embezzlement in another. The fraud might be leveraged later, insurance, but we don't lead with it. Lena let out a breath she'd been holding. I keep thinking about my daughter. Maya. She's 7. She thinks her father is a hero. Her voice cracked. What happens when she finds out he's not? I didn't have an answer for that. I wasn't sure anyone did. Day 35. Tuesday night. Tori came home later than usual, apologizing about the Henderson merger again. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her heels, and collapsed onto the couch with dramatic flair. I'm dead, she announced. Absolutely dead. If I have to read one more term sheet, I'm going to scream. I was in the kitchen, pretending to review work emails on my laptop. Rough day? Brutal. Partner meeting ran 3 hours, and then Gerald wanted to rehash everything over dinner. She rubbed her temples. I need wine. Is there wine? Fridge. The Pinot you like. You're a lifesaver. I watched her pad to the kitchen, pour a generous glass, and take a long sip with her eyes closed. She was beautiful. Even now, knowing what I knew, I could acknowledge that. The problem wasn't her beauty. It was everything underneath it. How was your day? She asked. Fine. Wrapped up the Schneider contract. Started on a new security audit. That's great, babe. She wasn't listening. She was scrolling through her regular phone with her free hand, a small smile playing at her lips. I knew what she was looking at, who she was thinking about. I decided to run a test. So the partner meeting ran long, huh? Who all was there? Oh, you know, Gerald, Susan, the usual crowd. She didn't look up from her phone. Why? Just curious. You've been at a lot of those lately. For just a fraction of a second, her scrolling thumb paused. Then she shrugged. It's merger season. Everything's meetings. Documented lie number 47, I noted mentally. I'd checked with a contact at Whitmore that afternoon. No partner meetings had been scheduled for the past month. Gerald had been in New York all week. I added it to the file. Day 42 brought the cruelest twist yet. We were eating dinner, salmon and asparagus, one of Tori's favorites, when she set down her fork and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Can I ask you something? Of course. Our anniversary next year, 10 years. She reached across the table and took my hand. I was thinking, what if we renewed our vows? Something small. Just family. A chance to recommit to each other. I felt nothing. That was the worst part. I should have felt rage or grief or bitter irony. Instead, there was just a vast emptiness where my love for her had once lived. "That's a nice idea," I heard myself say. "Really? You'd want to?" Her eyes were bright with what looked like genuine hope. "I know we've both been so busy lately, and I feel like we've drifted a bit. I want to fix that. I want us to be solid again." I looked at this woman I'd married. The woman who'd lain beside me every night for 9 years, who knew my favorite meals and my worst fears, who could make me laugh with a single raised eyebrow. The woman who'd spent the last 18 months building a secret life with another man and was now sitting here, holding my hand, talking about recommitment. She wasn't planning to leave me, not yet. I was her safety net, her backup plan. She was hedging her bets while James got his financial affairs in order, keeping all her options open until the last possible moment. "Let's talk about it more," I said, after the merger craziness dies down. "Perfect," she squeezed my hand. "I love you, David." "I love you too." The words tasted like ash. I called Lena at 2 a.m. that night, breaking protocol. I was sitting in my car in the garage, engine off, unable to face going back to bed with Tori. "What's wrong?" Lena's voice was fuzzy with sleep but alert. "She wants to renew our vows, next year, for our 10th anniversary." Silence. Then, "James suggested couples therapy last week. He said he'd noticed we've been disconnected lately and wants to work on us." She laughed humorlessly. The audacity of it. The sheer audacity. "How are you holding up?" "I almost broke tonight." I could hear her breathing in the darkness. We were putting the kids to bed, and Maya asked why Daddy has been so happy lately. She said he smiles more now, and her voice cracked. I almost told her. Just blurted it all out. I had to excuse myself and sit in the bathroom until I could function again. 45 more days, we're halfway there. "I know the timeline, David. I've got it tattooed on my brain." She exhaled shakily. "I'm sitting in my car right now, in my own driveway. I can see the light on in our bedroom. He's probably up there texting her. Your wife, and I can't make myself go inside. Do you want me to stay on the line?" She was quiet for a moment. "Yes, please. Just for a little while." We sat there in our respective cars, connected by cellular signals across the city, listening to each other breathe. Two strangers who'd become something more, partners in the truest sense, allies in a war neither of us had asked to fight. "Tell me something real," she said eventually. "Something that has nothing to do with any of this." I thought about it. I used to play piano when I was a kid. I was pretty good, actually. Played at a recital once and everything. "Why'd you stop?" "Life, I guess. College, work. It just fell away." I leaned my head against the window. "I've been thinking about starting again, when all this is done. Something that's just for me." "I used to paint," Lena said. "Watercolors. I had this little studio space before Maya was born. I haven't picked up a brush in 7 years. Maybe you should. Maybe I will." She sighed. "Thank you, David. For answering. For being here. We're in this together. That's the deal." She went inside eventually. So did I. But something had shifted between us. Some wall had come down. We weren't just co-conspirators anymore. We were friends. And that felt dangerous in its own way. Day 51. I discovered something in Tori's cloud backup that I wish I could unsee. Medical records, a clinic I didn't recognize, an appointment from 7 months ago that she'd never mentioned. She'd been pregnant. Past tense. The paperwork was clinical, detached. Procedure completed. Patient released. Follow-up scheduled. I sat in my home office staring at those words until they lost all meaning. A child. My child? James's child? Did it matter? She'd never told me. never even hinted that this had happened. She'd carried this secret alongside all her other secrets, wrapped them all together into a life I knew nothing about. I didn't add these records to the main evidence file. Some wounds were too private. Some betrayals went beyond strategy into something that just hurt. That night, Tori came home in a good mood. She'd gotten a promotion, junior partner finally. She wanted to celebrate. "Let's go to that Italian place you like," she said, practically glowing. "My treat. We can actually sit down and talk for once." "Sounds great." We went. We ate. We talked about her promotion and her cases and the future she was building at the firm. She was animated, engaged, present in a way she hadn't been in months. I listened and smiled and asked the right questions, and inside I felt nothing at all. At one point, she reached across the table and touched my cheek. "I know I've been distant lately," she said. "Work has been insane, but that's going to change. I promise. We're going to get back to us." "I know." "I mean it, David. You're my person. You always have been." I looked into her eyes, blue-green like sea glass, the eyes I'd fallen in love with a decade ago, and searched for some trace of the woman I'd married. She was in there somewhere, I supposed, buried under all the lies. But I couldn't find her anymore. "I believe you," I said. She smiled like I'd given her a gift. Day 58. Lena found the plane tickets. We met at a coffee shop 3 towns over, her hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking from. Her face was pale, and she kept glancing toward the door like she expected James to walk in at any moment. "2 tickets to Costa Rica, departing in 4 months." She slid her phone across the table so I could see the confirmation email. "James Mitchell, Victoria Parker, a beach resort I've never heard of, 2 weeks reserved." I stared at the screen. Victoria Parker. Not Victoria Mitchell, not Mrs. James Mitchell. Victoria Parker. My wife, using my name, on tickets bought by her lover. There was something especially cruel about that detail. She was still technically Mrs. David Parker, after all, still wearing my ring while she planned her escape with another man. "The resort looks expensive," Lena continued. "Beachfront bungalows, private chef service, the kind of place where people go to disappear." She pulled the phone back. "I researched it. It's a small operation, very discreet. Popular with people who need privacy for whatever reason." "How'd you find the tickets?" "His email. He uses the same password for everything." She shook her head. 20 years of education and he can't be bothered to set up 2-factor authentication. "They're not just planning to leave," I said slowly. "They're planning to disappear together, at least temporarily. The timeline matches up with when James's embezzlement accounts mature. He's been planning this for months, maybe longer." Lena's voice was steady, but her knuckles were white around her cup. "They're going to take everything they can and run. Then we need to move faster." "How much faster?" I did the math. We'd originally planned for day 90. That was still 32 days away, but if James and Tori were accelerating their own exit strategy— "Day 80, I said. "We file on day 80. That gives us 3 weeks to get everything in order. Can we be ready that fast?" "We have to be." Lena nodded slowly. Day 80, 22 days. 22 days. We sat there in silence, the weight of it settling over us. This was really happening. In 3 weeks, we were going to detonate bombs that would blow apart 4 lives. 5, if you counted James's career. There would be no going back. "Are you scared?" Lena asked quietly. "Terrified." "Me too." She managed a weak smile. "But I'm also angry. And right now, the anger is winning." "Good. Use it." Day 63. I hired a divorce attorney. Her name was Catherine Wells, and her reputation preceded her. Among the lawyers of our city, she was known as the Terminator, a nickname she'd earned by leaving opposing counsel in ruins across dozens of high-asset divorces. She was in her late 50s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, and she looked at my evidence file like it was Christmas morning. Her office was on the 42nd floor of the Meridian building, all glass and leather and power, the kind of place where careers were made and marriages were ended with equal efficiency. "Mr. Parker," she said, leaning back in her leather chair, "in 23 years of family law, I've seen some well-prepared clients. But this?" She tapped the folder. "This is a masterpiece. I'm in cybersecurity. Documentation is what I do. Clearly," she flipped through the pages. "Timeline of the affair, hotel receipts, GPS records, financial statements showing hidden assets, text message screenshots." She paused at the metadata analysis. "And location data proving she lied about her whereabouts on multiple occasions. The opposing counsel is going to have a stroke." She set down the folder and looked at me with what might have been respect. "Most people who come to me are emotional wrecks. They're angry, they're crying, they want blood, but they don't know how to get it. You're different." I had time to process before I decided to act. "How long have you known?" "Confirmed? About 2 months. Suspected? Longer than I want to admit." Catherine nodded slowly. "The ones who wait are always the most dangerous. You've been planning this, strategizing. While she thought everything was fine, you were building your case." "Something like that." "Good." She smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. "I like clients who think before they swing. Makes my job easier. What's our strategy?" Catherine closed the folder and fixed me with a direct stare. "File first. File fast. In this state, infidelity is considered during asset division. We include the affair in the petition, freeze joint accounts immediately, and demand full financial discovery." She smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "But there's something else you should know about." She pulled out a document I recognized immediately, the prenuptial agreement Tori and I had signed before our wedding. "I'm guessing you forgot about this?" I had, actually. It had been Tori's idea. She was a lawyer even then, just starting out, and she'd been adamant about protecting both our interests. My grandmother had left me a modest inheritance, and Tori had wanted to make sure it stayed in my family regardless of what happened. "There's a clause here," Catherine continued, pointing to a highlighted section. "Article 7, Section 3, Infidelity Provision. If either party is proven to have engaged in extramarital relations during the marriage, they forfeit all claims to the other party's premarital assets." I remember that. "But this is the part you might have missed." She pointed to another paragraph. "The cheating party also forfeits 60% of all marital assets accumulated during the marriage. Your wife wrote this language herself. She drafted the prenup." I let that sink in. Tori, meticulous, detail-oriented Tori, had created the legal weapon that would now be used against her. She'd been so certain of her own fidelity, so confident that she'd never be on the wrong side of that clause, that she'd built in nuclear consequences. "She never thought it would apply to her," Catherine said, reading my mind. "They never do." "What does this mean practically?" "It means your wife, who's been siphoning money into hidden accounts and planning her escape to Costa Rica, is about to lose almost everything. The inheritance is protected. Her share of the house, the investments, the retirement accounts, 60% of all of it comes to you." Catherine's smile sharpened. "Mr. Parker, this is one of the cleanest infidelity cases I've ever seen. By the time we're done, she won't have enough left to buy a one-way ticket to Costa Rica, let alone set up a new life there." I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. "I'm coordinating with another party," I said. "Another spouse in the same situation. We're filing simultaneously." Catherine's eyebrows rose. "The other woman's husband, James Mitchell?" "His wife, Lena Mitchell. She's retained her own attorney." I slid a business card across the desk. "This is her lawyer's information. We'd like to coordinate the filings. Same day, same hour. Neither cheater gets a chance to warn the other." Catherine picked up the card and studied it. Well, well, a coordinated strike. She tucked the card into her pocket. I like it. I'll reach out today. Day 71. Lena came to me with a crisis. We met in the parking lot of an abandoned shopping center, the kind of place that had died when the big box stores moved in. She was already there when I arrived, sitting on the hood of her car, staring at nothing. Maya's been having nightmares, she said without preamble. She wakes up screaming. When I asked her what the dreams were about, she said, her voice caught. She said she dreams that our family falls apart, that mommy and daddy stop loving each other. I sat beside her on the hood. The metal was warm from the afternoon sun. Kids sense things, I said, even when we think we're hiding it. What if we're wrong? Lena turned to face me, and her eyes were red. What if the scorched earth approach hurts them more than just quietly separating? We could do this without the coordinated filings, without the public exposure. We could just end it. Is that what you want? I don't know what I want anymore. She wiped her eyes. I wanted revenge. I still want revenge. But then I look at Maya and Lucas, and I think about them growing up knowing their father was humiliated, knowing their mother orchestrated it. I thought about the evidence folder in my home safe, the careful documentation, the strategy sessions, the cold satisfaction I'd felt watching the case come together. Then I thought about Tori's face when she got served. The moment she'd realize everything was over, not just the affair, but our entire life together. The future she'd imagined, whatever that was. All of it, gone in an instant. Did I want to hurt her? Yes. Absolutely. She'd lied to me every day for 18 months. She'd made me complicit in my own humiliation. She'd looked me in the eyes and talked about renewing our vows while planning her escape with another man. But did I want to be cruel? We can modify the approach, I said finally. Not the timing. We need the simultaneous filing to prevent asset hiding. But the service. We don't have to serve them at their offices. We don't have to maximize the public humiliation. Lena looked at me. You do that? After everything? I want justice. I don't need theater. I paused. There's a difference between holding someone accountable and destroying them for entertainment. She was quiet for a long moment. Service at home, she said. Evening, private. They still don't get a warning, but we don't parade it in front of their colleagues. Firm but not cruel. Firm but not cruel, she repeated, like she was trying on the words. I can live with that. 9 more days. 9 more days. Day 80. Filing day. I barely slept the night before. Lay in bed next to Tori, the last night we'd ever share, listening to her breathe, wondering if she had any idea what was coming. She slept peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams people dream when they think they've gotten away with everything. At 6 a.m., I was already dressed and out the door. I told her I had an early client meeting. One last lie to match her thousands. I went to the courthouse with Catherine at 9 a.m. The petition was 53 pages long, meticulously detailed, airtight. I signed my name on every flagged line while Catherine's paralegal notarized the documents. My hand was steady. I'd thought it might shake, but it didn't. Having second thoughts? Catherine asked. No. Good. Because the moment these papers hit the clerk's desk, there's no going back. Your wife will know. Her lover will know. The whole world will eventually know, at least the world that matters. I looked at her. I've been living in a lie for 18 months. The only person who didn't know was me. I'm done with that. Catherine nodded approvingly. Then let's finish this. It's done, Catherine said as we walked out. Papers are filed. Your wife is officially being divorced, whether she knows it yet or not. I checked my phone. A message from Lena. Filed. On schedule? How are you? Same? Ready for tonight? No. But doing it anyway. I spent the day pretending everything was normal. I went to work. I answered emails. I had a conference call with a client in Seattle. All the mundane activities of ordinary life, while somewhere in the courthouse system, a clerk was processing the paperwork that would end my marriage. Tori texted at lunch. Working late again. Sorry, heat up the leftovers? Love you. I didn't respond. The process server came at 6:47 p.m. I was already home, sitting at the kitchen table with a folder in front of me. Copies of everything. The hotel receipts, the GPS data, the text message screenshots, the photos from Aspen, the hidden account statements, the abortion clinic records. All of it, organized chronologically, undeniable. I heard Tori's key in the lock, heard her heels on the hardwood, heard her stop in the hallway, presumably looking at the divorce papers the server had handed her 30 minutes ago in the parking garage of her office building. She appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her face was white. The papers were crumpled in her hand. David. Her voice was barely a whisper. David, I can explain. Don't. She flinched like I'd struck her. I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit. She sat. Her hands were trembling. The papers rustled against the table. Good. Mine were steady. David, please just listen to me. I've been listening, I said. For 18 months, I've been listening to you lie to my face. Partner meetings, client dinners, legal conferences in Chicago. I slid the first document across the table. You were in Aspen, with James Mitchell. I have the metadata from your own photos. The color drained from her face. How did you? I'm in cybersecurity, Tori. It's literally my job to find things people try to hide. I kept my voice even. Controlled. The anger was there. God, was it there? But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. Every photo you took has location data embedded in it. Every time you logged into your email on our shared computer, I could see the access logs. Every lie you told me about where you were, I could verify with GPS tracking from your own car. You tracked my car? Her voice rose. You invaded my privacy. The car is marital property. It's perfectly legal. I slid another paper across. I also found your second phone, the one in your gym bag. Very sloppy, by the way. You should have used a passcode. Tori's face cycled through emotions. Shock, fear, anger, calculation. I could almost see her legal training kicking in, looking for the angle, the argument, the technicality that would get her out of this. I've been documenting everything, I continued. The Ashford Hotel, every Tuesday and Thursday. The $24,000 you've been siphoning into a hidden account. The second phone in your gym bag. The plane tickets to Costa Rica. The Costa Rica thing, that was just a fantasy. We were never actually going to. 2 tickets. Beach resort, 2 weeks. Departing in 4 months. I watched her deflate. You were planning to leave, Tori. You and James were going to run off together while your spouses were none the wiser. The only reason you hadn't done it yet was because James needed to get his finances in order first. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. I watched her try to calculate her way out of this. Watched her legal mind working, searching for an angle, an argument, some way to spin the situation. I'd seen her do it in depositions, find the weakness, exploit the opening. But there was no opening here. I'd made sure of it. David, She reached for my hand. I pulled away. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I've always loved you. You bought plane tickets to Costa Rica with him. You were going to leave. I thought about it, but I never would have actually. Stop. My voice was quiet, but she stopped. I've listened to 18 months of lies. I'm not listening to any more. Tears were streaming down her face now. I'll end it. Tonight. I'll call him right now and end it. And we can go to therapy. We can work through this. The petition's been filed. The accounts are frozen. Your lover's wife filed her own petition this afternoon. He's being served right now. I watched her process that, watched the calculation in her eyes as she realized there was no way to warn James, no way to coordinate their stories. It's over, Tori. Her expression shifted. The tears stopped. Something hard replaced the desperation. If you do this, she said, her voice cold now, I will make your life hell. I'll drag your name through every court in this city. I'll tell everyone how you spied on me, tracked my car, violated my privacy. I slid another paper across the table. The summary Catherine had prepared, the infidelity clause, the asset calculations, the documented lies. My attorney says this is one of the cleanest infidelity cases she's ever seen, I said. Your prenup, the one you drafted, gives me 60% of everything because you cheated. Your hidden accounts are already flagged for discovery, and every judge in the city knows Catherine Wells doesn't lose. I stood up. So please, drag away. I left her sitting at the table. I heard her start crying again as I climbed the stairs. I'd already packed a bag, just essentials, a few days' worth of clothes. I'd be staying at a hotel until we could work out the logistics. At the front door, I paused. Part of me wanted to go back. Part of me wanted to shake her, scream at her, demand to know why. Why wasn't I enough? What had James given her that I couldn't? Had she ever really loved me? Or had our entire marriage been a lie? But those questions wouldn't help. The answers, whatever they were, wouldn't change anything. I walked out and didn't look back. Lena called me at 11 p.m. How did it go? I asked. He tried to throw the papers at me, called me vindictive, said I was destroying our family. Her voice was hollow. Then I showed him the embezzlement evidence. You weren't going to use that. I wasn't. But he started threatening me. Said he'd fight for full custody, said he'd ruin my reputation, paint me as unstable. She exhaled. So I showed him what I had, and I made it very clear that if he fights me on anything, custody, assets, anything, it goes to the state bar and the district attorney. What did he say? Nothing. He just deflated. Like someone let all the air out of him. She paused. He agreed to mediate, uncontested divorce. I get primary custody. He gets supervised visitation and a much smaller settlement than he'd have gotten otherwise. And the embezzlement stays buried? For now. My attorney is holding it as insurance. Another pause. David, I thought I'd feel better. I thought when it was finally done I'd feel vindicated or satisfied or something. But I just feel empty. I was sitting in my hotel room, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Tori was probably on the phone with James, each of them realizing that their carefully planned escape had crumbled. Their affair, their future together, it was over. We'd won. So why did I feel like I'd lost something too? I know what you mean, I said. I keep waiting for the satisfaction to kick in. It hasn't yet. Maybe it won't. Maybe. We were quiet for a moment, connected by phone across the city. What happens now? She asked. Lawyers, paperwork, the long, boring process of dismantling two marriages. I rubbed my eyes. We'll get through it. That's the deal. That's the deal, she agreed. Good night, David. Good night, Lena. The next 3 months were exactly as tedious as I'd predicted. Tori contested the infidelity determination, or tried to. She hired a lawyer named Bradley Simmons, a man with slicked-back hair and an impressive track record of making guilty people look innocent. He attempted to argue that the GPS tracking was illegal, that the evidence was obtained improperly, that I had violated her reasonable expectation of privacy. I sat in Catherine's office while she showed me his motion to suppress. He's grasping at straws, Catherine said, flipping through the pages. Every single argument here has been shot down in precedent. The GPS tracking is legal under state law. The car was marital property, registered in both your names. The shared accounts were accessible to both spouses by definition. The cloud backup was on a family plan you paid for. Will any of it stick? Not a chance. She tossed the motion aside. But he knows that. This is a delay tactic. They're trying to drag things out, hoping you'll get tired and settle for less than you deserve. I'm not getting tired, Catherine smiled. That's what I told him. The hearing was 3 weeks later. I watched Tori across the courtroom, her face composed but pale, whispering to Bradley while Catherine methodically demolished each argument. She presented affidavits from tech experts confirming the GPS data was legally obtained. She cited case law establishing that spouses have access to shared financial accounts. She produced the terms of service for the cloud backup, which I'd signed and paid for. When the judge reviewed the evidence, he didn't even hesitate. The motion to suppress is denied, he said. The evidence will be admitted in full. Bradley tried 3 more times over the following months. 3 more motions, 3 more hearings, 3 more defeats. Each time, Catherine was ready. Each time, Tori left the courtroom looking a little more diminished. Infidelity confirmed. Prenuptial agreement enforced. Tori got to keep her clothes, her personal effects, and about 30 cents on the dollar of what she'd expected. She tried to appeal. It failed. I didn't celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. I'd won by every objective measure, but the victory felt hollow. I'd spent 9 years building a life with this woman, and now I was dismantling it in courtrooms and conference rooms, reducing our marriage to asset schedules and custody agreements. We didn't have children, at least. That was something. I couldn't imagine doing this with kids caught in the middle. James fared worse. Lena's attorney was almost as ruthless as Catherine, and James's guilty conscience made him a terrible negotiator. He agreed to terms that left him with minimal custody, a modest settlement, and the constant knowledge that evidence of his embezzlement sat in a safe deposit box, ready to destroy him if he stepped out of line. He and Tori tried to reconcile briefly. I heard about it through the grapevine, lawyers talk, and this case had become legendary in family law circles. They lasted about 2 weeks before the recrimination started. She blamed him for getting caught. He blamed her for not being more careful. Without the shared enemy of their unsuspecting spouses, they had nothing to hold them together. I ran into James once, about 3 months after everything was finalized. It was at a coffee shop downtown, the same kind of random encounter that could happen in any city. He saw me before I saw him, and for a moment I thought he might try to leave. Instead, he walked over. David. James. We stood there, 2 men who'd never met formally but who were connected by the worst kind of intimacy. I'd read his texts to my wife. He'd shared a bed with the woman I'd thought I'd grow old with. I don't expect you to believe this, he said, but I'm sorry. For what it's worth. It's not worth much. He nodded like he expected that. I know, He trailed off. I threw away everything. My marriage, my kids, my career's hanging by a thread. And for what? Something that fell apart the minute it had to survive in the real world. Sounds like a personal problem. It is? He laughed bitterly. Tori and I, we thought we were so clever, so careful. We never even considered that our spouses might actually be paying attention. No, I said. You didn't. He left after that. I never saw him again. Their affair, it turned out, had been mostly about the thrill, the secrecy, the forbidden nature of it. Once it was out in the open, once they were free to be together, the magic evaporated. Funny how that works. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a letter from Tori's new attorney. She was suing me for emotional distress and invasion of privacy, a last-ditch effort to recoup some of her losses. Catherine looked at the complaint and laughed out loud. She really doesn't know when to quit, does she? She tossed the papers on her desk. I'll have this dismissed within 30 days. Don't worry about it. I didn't. I met Lena for coffee 8 months after that first LinkedIn message. It was a Saturday morning, the kind of crisp autumn day that makes you want to believe in fresh starts. The leaves were turning gold and red along the parkway, and there was a chill in the air that felt like possibility. She was already seated when I arrived, and she looked different. Lighter, somehow. The shadows under her eyes were gone. She was wearing a color I'd never seen on her before, a deep blue that suited her. Her hair was different too, shorter, more stylish. You look good, I said as I sat down. Thanks. I feel good, actually. First time in longer than I can remember. She smiled, and it reached her eyes. Maya told me this morning that I smile more now. Can you imagine? My 7-year-old noticed. Kids see everything. They really do. We ordered coffee, made small talk. The cafe was busy with the weekend crowd, couples reading newspapers, families with kids running between tables. How's the painting going? I asked. Slowly. I'm terrible at it. I mean, genuinely terrible. My watercolors look like something Lucas would bring home from kindergarten. She laughed. But I love it. It's the first thing I've done in years that's just for me. Not for work, not for the kids, not to impress anyone, just mine. That's what matters. What about you? The piano? I smiled. I can almost play Fur Elise without making the dog next door howl. Progress. Progress. We sat there in comfortable silence for a moment. It struck me how natural this felt, being with her, talking about nothing in particular. 8 months ago, we'd been strangers united by catastrophe. Now we were… what? Friends? Something more? Something less? Can I ask you something? Lena said finally. Anything. These past months. Everything we went through together. She hesitated, tracing the rim of her coffee cup with one finger. Was any of it real? Or were we just using each other to get through it? I'd thought about that question a lot. In the lonely nights at my hotel, in the empty apartment I'd eventually rented, in the quiet moments when I wondered what any of it had meant. I think it was real, I said slowly. What we built, the trust, the partnership. I don't think you can fake that. But it was built on a foundation of pain, betrayal, anger. I met her eyes. I don't know if that's healthy. I don't know if anything good can grow from that soil. She nodded slowly. I've been thinking the same thing, about what we are to each other, what we could be. And? She took a long time to answer. I think I need to learn who I am alone first, she said finally. I went straight from college to James. I've never been just me. And before I can be anyone's partner, I need to figure that out. That makes sense. But I don't want to lose you, David. Whatever this is, friendship, partnership, something else, I don't want it to just end. It doesn't have to. I reached across the table and took her hand. Not romantically. Just a connection. A reminder that we'd survived something together. Let's take our time, I said. No pressure, no expectations. We'll figure it out as we go. She squeezed my hand. I'd like that. We finished our coffee, talked some more about nothing important. Made tentative plans to meet again next week. Dinner, maybe. Something normal. Something that wasn't strategy sessions and evidence gathering. When we stood to leave, she surprised me with a hug. Not romantic, just warm. Human. A reminder that we'd survived something together. Thank you, she said into my shoulder. For everything. We got each other through it. That's what mattered. She pulled back and looked at me. Whatever happens next, whatever we become or don't become, I'm glad you answered that LinkedIn message. Me too. I drove home alone that afternoon. My apartment was quiet. A one-bedroom in a building I'd chosen for its view of the river, not for any practical reason. The kind of choice you make when you're rebuilding a life from scratch. I'd moved in 3 months ago, after the divorce was finalized, and I was still discovering things I'd left behind. My book collection was at Tori's, my ex-wife's, our former house. Some of my grandmother's antiques. A box of photos from my childhood that I'd probably never see again. The debris of a life that had ended not with a bang, but with legal paperwork and asset schedules. I sat on my couch and looked around at the space I'd created. My books on the shelves, the ones I'd managed to take. My grandmother's photograph on the wall, one of the few things I'd insisted on keeping. A second-hand piano in the corner that I'd been teaching myself to play again, one stumbling scale at a time. The apartment was smaller than our house, simpler, but it was mine in a way that house had never been. Every piece of furniture, every book on the shelf, every cup in the cabinet, I'd chosen it, not we, me. There was freedom in that, and loneliness too. But at least the loneliness was honest. At least I wasn't lying to myself anymore about the life I was living. My phone buzzed, a text from Lena. "Thanks for today, it helped." I typed back, "Anytime." Then, after a moment, "Same time next week?" Her response came quickly. "I'd like that." I set the phone down and watched the sun drop toward the river. Somewhere in the city, Tori was living her life, diminished, chastened, but still going. James was seeing his kids on alternating weekends, walking on eggshells, waiting to see if the sword over his head would ever fall. And I was here, alone, but not lonely. Hurt, but healing. The anger was still there, somewhere underneath. I didn't think it would ever fully go away. But it wasn't running the show anymore. It wasn't driving my decisions or keeping me up at night. I'd spent 18 months being lied to. Then I'd spent 3 months building a case. Then I'd spent 3 more months dismantling a marriage. Now, finally, I had the chance to spend some time just being. Not reacting. Not investigating. Not strategizing. Just living. My sister called me last week. She'd suspected Tori for years, she admitted. Never said anything because she thought it wasn't her place. We had a long conversation about that. About loyalty and honesty and when to speak up. I told her I wished she'd said something. She cried and apologized. I told her it wasn't her fault. It wasn't. It was Tori's fault. Tori made the choices. Tori told the lies. Tori built a second life while I sat at home, clueless, thinking we were happy. But I also made choices. I chose to ignore the signs. I chose comfort over truth. I chose the easy explanation over the painful one, over and over again, until someone I'd never met sent me a message that forced me to stop pretending. Maybe that's the real lesson. Not that people cheat. That's been true since the beginning of time. But that we lie to ourselves even more than they lie to us. We construct these stories about our lives, and we'll do almost anything to protect them. I'd lost a lot. A marriage, a future I'd thought was certain, a version of myself that had believed in happy endings. But I'd gained something too. Clarity. Self-respect. The knowledge that I could survive the worst thing I'd ever experienced and come out the other side. The sun touched the water. The light went gold, then orange, then red. I sat there until it was gone. Then I got up, walked to the piano and started to play.